I don't know about you, but the idea that my lights or central heating might stop working because they can't connect to the internet and phone home to a remote server is terrifying, and not something that I would pay my own money to allow. On top of that, I have no interest in letting companies store my security camera footage or data for when I'm home, away, or even asleep. But on the flip side, the idea of having properly smart heating control or color temperature adjusting lights that can help wake me up in the morning and make getting to sleep at night easier, and a voice assistant that I don't have to worry if anyone is listening in, that all sounds fantastic. But I really don't want to trade my security and privacy for essentially minor conveniences. But luckily, I don't have to, and you don't either. That is where this whole series comes in. I'm adding a whole load of smart home tech to my house with zero compromises on functionality, privacy, and security, with the only catch being a tiny bit more effort in getting it set up. This video is the first video in the series dedicated to giving you the foundations to understand all of the jargon and concepts that we'll be using in the rest of the series. I'll also be filling you in a little more on my effectively biases that will be shaping how I go about doing this. But first, I think it makes sense to start with a bit of a glossary of terms, the jargon that you may have heard but may not necessarily know what it means. I'll start with Home Assistant, or HAS. This is the software that we'll be using to control all of our devices, to have them connect and talk to each other, to work things out, to schedule, to run the sort of smart systems, all of that sort of stuff. It's free and open source, has a massive community of people using and creating for it, and has a load of sort of plugins, extensions, and add-ons to do almost anything that you can think of. And even if it doesn't have them built in, you can either make them yourself or create custom things like automations and different setups. It's pretty fantastic. Next is Zigbee, an open source wireless protocol that's similar to Wi-Fi, but completely separate. It was conceived in 1998 and has generally remained similar, with the most recent introduction being the introduction of Zigbee 3.0 in late 2015. It's a mesh network, which means that your devices don't need to directly connect to your controller. So long as they can connect via one or more of your other devices, then it's all good. But I'll explain more about this and the similar options later in this video. And speaking of similar options, Z-Wave is a proprietary low-power wireless protocol that is very similar to Zigbee, but with a few key differences that, again, I'll explain later on. Thread is another low-power wireless protocol. It's actually much newer and has a few key advantages, but because of its more recent release date, there's currently it's a lot less popular and a lot less devices available to use with it. There's also Wi-Fi, which hopefully you've heard of before, but this is what's called a star network, as in all of the devices have to connect directly to an access point rather than being able to hop between other devices to transmit your messages. And you've probably heard of Bluetooth. This is the final wireless protocol I'll mention. It's a direct, peer-to-peer, short-range connectivity option and is generally the sort of lowest tier for the sort of smart home devices. I've mentioned the term open source a few times now, but some may not know what that fully means, or perhaps just its significance. Open source means that the program's source code, the original code that the author or authors wrote to actually make it do everything it does, is all publicly available for you to view, download, and modify. This is the absolute gold standard, as it means that not only can you vet the code yourself to make sure that it is safe, if you can, but also that anyone can contribute to fixing bugs, adding features, and generally improving the project. If you want to add something, tweak a setting, or remove something that just gets on your nerves, you can. Plus, it's almost always free to use, which is a clear advantage, although you should always check the license to see what you're allowed to do with it. GitHub is a website that hosts code, and where you'll find the vast majority of open source projects. It's owned by Microsoft, but it is free with some paid additional features, mostly for businesses. And actually, you don't even need to be logged in to browse, clone, or even download released versions of projects. Repos or repositories are the name for essentially the folders that each project uses to contain everything. They're kind of the bucket that you fill with your code, or where you go to look for the final product. Each project will normally have its own repo and can often be split across multiple, often on GitHub, and a good example of this is my OSRTT project, which has its own repo with all of the source code, hardware files, and the releases section where you can download the fully built application. Now, of course, that's not an exhaustive list. There will always be more terms I could be explaining, but I think that will do for, at least for now anyway, and I suppose next I want to walk you through a couple of key things. Namely, all of those wireless protocols that I mentioned, the Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Z-Wave, Thread, and Bluetooth. They all have their own sort of uses and quirks, their interoperability and popularity. Certainly too much to go into, in crazy detail in this video on all of them, but I do want to explain a couple of key things that you should know. First, you can effectively split these into three groups: Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the low-power mesh networks. Only Wi-Fi can directly connect to the internet. The rest all need to be bridged to the internet through another device, hence why Philips calls their Hue lighting hub the bridge. That generally means that anything that uses Wi-Fi can, at least by default, connect to the internet, and may even be designed to require internet connectivity to set up, use, or even just control. There are also a limit to the number of devices that you can connect to your Wi-Fi network, and even if you don't actually get to that limit and add all that many, you can still make your network slow, unresponsive, or even prone to disconnections and failure. All devices have to be within range of your router or any extra access points that you've added, and generally need to be wall powered, as Wi-Fi is fairly power hungry, at least in comparison to the lower power options. By comparison, those mesh networks are designed as separate low power networks, which means that by default they can't connect to the internet and phone home, nor can they congest your normal Wi-Fi network. Now, they can still interfere, as Zigbee in particular often uses the same 2.4 GHz band as one of the Wi-Fi bands, so they can sort of get a little messy and sort of get in each other's way, but generally speaking, the tech itself can mostly account for that automatically, again, at least for the most part. One of the key differences, though, is the word mesh network. That means that instead of needing to connect directly to the router, like you do with Wi-Fi, the devices themselves can act as waypoints or stepping stones. So even if they can't connect directly to an access point, say your access point's at the front of your house and you've got some bulbs or whatever else towards the back and they just can't talk to each other directly, well, as long as you have some devices in the middle, the device far away can relay their message through the other devices and it's all good. On Zigbee, that can be over an unlimited number of hops, of steps between devices, but on Z-Wave it is limited to just 4 total. But realistically, for home use, that's unlikely to be a real limitation. Between the three options, Zigbee is the main one that I've picked for my setup. It strikes the best balance for me of compatibility, price, and ease of use. Being an open source standard, there are countless options for both the main sort of controller or dongle router thing and for the devices to use them with. Z-Wave, by comparison, is a proprietary standard, meaning that it doesn't have as much support and can potentially be more difficult for us enthusiasts to get working in our DIY smart homes. The two aren't cross-compatible. You need a specific Z-Wave controller to use Z-Wave devices, and they can't be parts of the same mesh network, nor can Z-Wave and Zigbee devices interact with each other, at least directly, although via Home Assistant you can set up automation so that they are able to talk to each other, but that's not a feature of the two networks themselves. As for the third option of Thread, well, like I said, that is the newest standard, and therefore doesn't have as many devices that work with it, or even support in things like Home Assistant quite as much as the others do, but it does offer a few features, like each device is individually addressable, over the older options, and is also open source. In theory, I think it can integrate with things like Zigbee networks and devices, although I think that's more of a little ways off being a useful reality and more of a theory for now. I would generally agree with the idea that Thread will be the standard in a few years' time, but for now, for the time being, Zigbee will do me just fine. And I should mention Bluetooth. This is generally the sort of worst option, as you need to be pretty much in the same room to actually connect and control the device, and it will generally only work with the sort of smartphone app that comes with whatever device you're trying to control. So generally speaking, I would pass on any of those devices unless I really needed to. And one final thing to note here is why using Wi-Fi devices is something that I'm generally so against. Letting cheap, unregulated, insecure devices connect to your home network is always a bad idea. But devices that are designed to be permanently powered, to know when you're home, and to accept incoming and outgoing connections over the internet is top shelf terrible. Even if you assume that I don't know, smart bulb, cheap no-name smart bulb you bought off of Amazon, eBay, or AliExpress isn't preloaded with some form of malicious data collection, ransomware, or other malware, which isn't a given, well, the devices themselves are absolutely chock full of security vulnerabilities that likely won't ever bother to be patched, and can allow for essentially an endless number of attack vectors that for anyone to exploit from anywhere on the globe. A fake firmware update or a single zero-day bug is all it takes to wreak havoc. Now, while there are steps that you can and should take to limit those sorts of issues, by using a separated network like Zigbee, it makes that sort of issue generally, a lot less likely, and most of the time means that you can cut out the whole devices need to phone home thing that I detest so much as well. So that's a brief start on smart home tech, my thoughts on how to set things up, and a few of the key jargon buzzwords that I will be endlessly dropping like mad through, over the course of this series. The next video in the series will be actually setting up Home Assistant, Zigbee, and some Philips Hue ambient, white ambient bulbs. I'll put the playlist for this whole series on the end cards of all of the videos so that you can keep watching and follow along. And of course, do make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification icon to be notified of those new videos as they go up. If there's anything that I've missed, got wrong, you'd like to see added, or you just like to see throughout this series, feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to correct or to add or to cover in future. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the whole sort of smart home tech stuff in general, and sort of self-hosting it rather than letting cloud providers run it all for you and be paying a monthly subscription fee. Feel free to let me know that in the comments down below as well. If you want to check out the sort of general smart home kit that I'll be using, then I'll leave links to it all in the description down below. Those will be Amazon affiliate links that will take you to your local Amazon store, where you can see pricing when and where you watch this and maybe pick stuff up yourself if you fancy. And if you want to support the channel, of course, like I said, you can hit the subscribe button, but you can also support directly through the YouTube join button and get some cool rewards for doing so, or through Patreon if you would rather. There's also a load of other affiliate links in the description for places like Overclocks UK if you're buying them there, or just other different options, merch for hoodies or t-shirts like this one, a load of stuff. Feel free to check it out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the rest of the playlist, and yeah, we'll see you on the next video.